And we're back once again, only on its last call. Last call, the alcohol, only on the last call podcast.com. And joining me here all the way from Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's busy working on the draft when he's not doing Go Pack Go chats. He's on the Draft Professor. He is releasing scouting reports. I mean, this man here is one of the busiest people. He's also at otechdraft.com, contributor to the Weekly Huddle podcast. And Cheesehead TV, I give you, it is NFL Draft Insider Guru and all around good man here. I give you, it is Newt Westen. So Newt, let's start off here with the big question, because this is what everybody wants to know. It's taste great or less filling. Is it Arvelle Reese? Is David Bailey? I mean, we hear this. So you're the guy here. If you were the GM, make a case for either guy. Let's start with Arvelle Reese. Like, why is he the guy who, if you have a number two pick, you would draft?
When you take a look at Arvelle Reese, he is so incredibly dynamic as a playmaker. I've compared him when you take a look at Abdul Carter last year. Abdul Carter converted from middle linebacker to an edge rusher, and last year he played mostly edge, but then would also kind of like shadow at linebacker, and he was able to move around a lot. I think when you take a look at Arvelle Reese, it's a little bit of the inverse to that. He's a guy that he plays more, really plays more 50-50, but maybe a little bit more as a linebacker, but he's able to do a lot of dynamic things as an edge rusher. And so for me, when you see him and you see that versatility, my mind immediately as a Packer fan goes to a guy like Micah Parsons. Don't
Yeah.
know if you've heard of him. He's a pretty decent player. But I really am drawn to that. A guy that can impact pass rush from any spot along the line. And then beyond that, he's able to provide some really strong run support in the middle of the box. And just the athleticism, the dynamic player that he is. He comes in like, once again, for a middle linebacker, if we're calling him that, 6'4", 241 with 32.5-inch arms. Like, I love that. It's a small edge rusher, which is why I'm not calling him a true edge, but you get that dynamic impact from him. You get a guy that I think he's actually fairly raw when it comes to rushing off of the edge, but he's still been able to put out really great film, really great tape, and then obviously a ton of production for that with 8 sacks last year, 27 total pressures, and just some really, really great play. And then, like, you flip the script to David Bailey, and you have one of the best pure pass rushers in the NFL. I'm sorry, in the NFL, in college football. 81 total pressures last year. The only person to eclipse him was Ruben Bain, who played, I think, like 150 more snaps than him. And Ruben Bain had a hell of a college football season. But David Bailey is maybe a designated pass rusher early on. I think that he's proven a little bit more for chops in the run game. Still a little bit lighter, 250 pounds. But the build with the 33-inch plus arms, and then just the natural ability for him to pair athleticism, technique. Like, he can win with a variety of moves. He's got a filthy inside spin move, which I'm always a fan of. And just like that ability to impact the game so heavily as a pass rusher is incredible.
So let's talk about, I guess, the worry. We'll start with Reese. The worry I keep hearing from guys like Bill Sparks, Price Carter, even from national guys, is he's very raw.
Yep.
You don't know what he is yet. You have an idea, but it's not like he's not a defined edge guy. He lines up sometimes edge, sometimes an outside linebacker, sometimes a middle linebacker. How weird, how tough is that when if you're a defensive coordinator, you're still not sure like what he is. Like, what would give you pause if you were taking him? Like, what do you see when you look at his tape and go, all right, this is what concerns me.
I I get that because he's very raw as a pass rusher. Like, there is not necessarily like this clearly defined plan. You don't have this natural talent that you see. You have a guy out there that is a freak athlete that has the body type, the build, and enough know-how to be disruptive on the edge, but you don't know kind of what that looks like. And then you have a guy also that in the same body is a really good but not great linebacker. And when we're talking about a guy that's a linebacker that you're going to take early on, you need him to be great. You need him to be phenomenal. And if you're not one of both of them, you're gonna have a lot of people kind of pausing over that. I make the comparison maybe a little bit to Travis Hunter last year. Obviously, Hunter was a phenomenal prospect, and people raved about him and what he could do for an organization. But with him, I don't think he was necessarily an elite receiver. As a cornerback, I could see that, but I think a lot of people more projected him to play receiver, and so with that, I think you just kind of struggle if you're going to isolate one of those things. Well, is he then worth it at the top? Um, and then I think when you get to Bailey, he's very scheme specific. If you run an even front, he's probably not the guy for you. There's not a world where I see this man putting his hand in the dirt, being an even front defensive end, and being nearly as disruptive as he is. So I think that Bailey is very scheme specific. And if I was a GM, I would be having a lot of conversations that revolved around my defensive coordinator in the sense of, hey, is this something we're able to incorporate? Can we run a system? Can we run a scheme that's able to do this? Or are we pretty much grabbing a guy that doesn't fit what we're looking for? And I think that's going to be one of the bigger things with Bailey, where I think the other guys at the top, when you talk about like more true quote unquote pass rushers and edge defenders, like Ruben Bain, TJ Parker, hell, even Keldrick Falk, I can see those guys fitting in either an even or an odd man front. Bailey, I really see as only that stand up edge rusher.
Who do the Jets take? Because it sounds like if you
I knew you were going to go to that.
Because it's two different people. It's like the
It is.
argument I've heard is like Aaron Glenn probably wants David Bailey because he knows at least what he is, and I can work around that. Where the GM goes, I want Arvelle Reese because the upside is there. So whoever takes it, let's say whether it's the Chiefs all the way to the Jets, like who gets final say if it comes down to either of these two? Is it the GM? Is it the coach? Like, how tough is that trying to figure out?
I mean, from everything I've heard, I've listened to a lot of Rick Spielman, former Vikings GM, talk about this process and the decisions that get made. And in a homogenous situation, like everyone's on board and you're not having people fight one another.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, right. I think when you take a look at it and you see what's going on with the wants and the needs of the coach, especially for sophomore coach Aaron Glenn and his desire to get someone in here that is going to fit his system because he's a defensive minded coach. Like that's how he, earned his paycheck. I think you're gonna give him a little bit more of the leverage there. And I would take Arvelle Reese, but I think it's going to be David Bailey.
Let's talk about the most talked about guy so far because nobody's sure where he's going. That's Jordan Tyson. Started out in the beginning, hey, this guy's going to be a top 5 pick. He's the best wide receiver. That's what we heard beginning of the NFL draft cycle, before the combines. Oh, this is the guy. Then the NFL combine came and he didn't produce. Okay, no worries. Hey, hamstring issues. Doesn't work out for his pro day either.
No.
And again, I've heard his mock as high as 9 to. I've seen people now mock him all the way down to 32 to Seattle. What's the concern? And should there be a lot of concern for a guy who on tape looks great, but can't stay healthy with that darn forsaken hamstring?
I mean, it's the concern is the injury. That's like point blank the biggest thing when you take a look at him and you take a look at his ability to be an effective player. It's the fact that he's never played a full college football season. I'm probably a little bit lower than others on him. I've got he's a first round grade for me. He's number 19 on my overall big board. But that's not factoring in the medical. That is just like what I've seen on film. I think that he's good but not great in certain areas. And in fact, I have Tate and Lemon ahead of him. But I know that national media consensus has him basically labeled as wide receiver one when healthy and or if healthy. And then
Yeah,
that's
when
it's
that was
always
his
there's
scare
always
piece.
an asterisk next to his name. And so that's like, where the question comes from when we start looking at this. I think you get a, it it's a team that they they have the ability to have a luxury pick. They are, you know, able to kind of cope with that and bring him on. I think that for me, that conversation starts at just kind of look. It's got to start at Miami, if not earlier. I think the Saints even. When you talk about that, I don't see Washington with a lot of the things that they've been dealing with roster issues because of injury and the lack of depth. I don't see them wanting to hop on that bandwagon, and I think they have also other issues that they need to address. But I would think that, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that the Chiefs would probably be the first team where the conversation. Or I'm sorry, the Saints would be the first team where the conversation opens itself up. um, the Dolphins as well. I think if you have Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon gone by the time that the pick rolls around the Dolphins, and say both cornerbacks are gone as well, I think there's a real good chance that Jordan Tyson would go, because you got to get someone in there that is able to be an electric receiver and can do certain things. So, Dolphins, Baltimore. I don't think KC would go that route, because the amount of times they've been burned on unreliable guys, whether it was or was not in their control, I think they're not willing to kind of step out into that realm. Um,
I
and
was going to
so,
say Casey Concepcion. I've heard now on a lot of people's board is wide receiver three, just because they said he is healthy. He plays through
yep,
the full season. Like again, if it's not just the medicals, like how much do you question his toughness? Like okay, you seem to get a hammy, and then you pull out and you don't play through it. We understand, but when are you going to be tough? Are you going to be tough in the NFL, or is this going to be Percy Harvin 2.0?
yeah, I can't comment on, like, the toughness aspect, because I know, like, early on, he had what, a torn everything. But basically his knee was not connected, like MCL, PCL, ACL, everything, I believe. But yeah, you're right. Like that hammy has just been like one of those things that's nagging. And I think, through the lens of a Packers fan, man, Christian Watson's been someone that has been very similar in this regard, like electric when he's on the field. But it seems like it's been such a journey to try to keep him on the field. But he's a difference maker when he's there, and you really do see it. But I do kind of question that. I think that in Omar Cooper Jr. Or the KC Concepcion, like you're talking about, has the ability to kind of maybe supplant Jordan Tyson because of that availability piece. I think once you get beyond that, you get guys like Denzel Boston. He's just a different receiver. Like, you're not drafting him in place of Tyson. You're drafting Boston because of his skill set. But yeah, I think that, in my opinion, I would be surprised if Tyson doesn't, or if Tyson makes it past, say, pick. Just kind of like looking here, 22 with
19, the Panthers.
I was going to say 22 with the Chargers, but yeah, 19 with the Panthers, in that range. I would think that I'm always hesitant. Like, the Panthers just grabbed Tetero McMillan. Like, how many times are you going to dip from the same well? But I know the Chiefs have obviously proven me wrong in that regard. But yeah, let's say the Chargers at 22. I think that would be like the floor for him. But maybe it is something like a Will Johnson last year, where the issue is bigger than I would even think.
All right, this is going to be the most, according to Dana Orlovsky, by the way, Ty Simpson, best quarterback in this draft. Now, we could argue that there might be some shenanigans. They both share the same agent, but hey, I'm not saying anything here, accusing anybody. Just share the same agent. But this is the question: to draft him or not to draft Ty Simpson in the first round? He looked great early on.
Yep.
Then later in the season, started getting more happier feet over, overthrew the ball. He's not the biggest guy. I heard he's clocked in at 6 feet 6'1", 210 pounds. What is he? And how many teams are going to look at him and go, "I'm not sure if we got a quarterback next year, so let's roll the dice on him this year."
I think it's one of those things with when you look at last year and Jackson Dart going, I kind of compare the situation to that where I think it's definitely something where hopefully you see that idea of kicking the can down the line isn't always for the best. Like how many conversations came last year where it was like, oh man, that 2026 NFL draft class, their quarterbacks, they're going to be stacked. And you start listing off these quarterbacks, and none of them panned out. We're talking about Mendoza and Ty Simpson at the top, who were, maybe a top five with Mendoza, and then Ty Simpson, who was not even discussed. And now they're like clear cut 1 and 2 with Mendoza clearly as number one, and then Simpson not even a lock for two. And so I think it comes in where you don't want to wait to grab a quarterback because if you need one, you need one. Like there's no getting around that. But I do going back to kind of where I started this, I start comparing that to what we look at with um Dart last year. And I think that for me, I kind of see them not as the same player, but as the same caliber of player where there is still something there. Now, Dart made a success in a really scheme driven offense at Ole Miss where Simpson was asked to do a lot of things in a little bit more of a pro style offense. Not that Bama is like extremely pro style, but way more than Ole Miss. And I think that you see the pieces there. You see some of the things that he has between the ears, and you like that. But there are some physical limitations. And so that might start to hold people back. I think that, when you talk about the line for quarterbacks being drafted in the first round being 1.5, and like there's no one else I think that's going to creep up there, but I really do think that there is a chance that Ty Simpson goes either to, I mean, I think that the conversation really starts at Pittsburgh at 21, and then a team trading up, a la Jackson Dart style, last year. So I wouldn't do it, but if I had to make a bet on it, I would say that yeah, Ty Simpson goes in the first round.
Is he a first round quarterback?
No.
So, like, what do you like about him, and what do you just look go? Yeah, he's not even really an NFL starting quarterback.
So I think that he has a chance to be an NFL starting quarterback. He is a second round grade for me, a late second round grade. He's number 56 on my big board. When you take a look at him, the processor and kind of going back to it, like let me start with the weaknesses actually. Um, he's not an anticipatory thrower. He has a like average to maybe even below average arm. But like he's not going to be the guy to like launch around the field, put darts down there. Struggles to throw it outside the numbers at times, and he's really not that imposing of an athlete when he gets outside the numbers. And you say, well, okay, well, what the hell is this guy doing that's actually good then? When we want to draft him, and the processing, I think, is it. I think that he understands how to read defenses. And, from the small sample that we've gotten from him as a starter, when you have his ability to grow from a backup to that, I think that's extremely impressive. He does a really good job with both pre-snap reads and looking through his progressions. I think that, like I said, the arm talent, he's not going to be putting it all over the field, but he's got what you need to make the necessary throws. So I don't think that you're ever going to be talking about him as like this guy that's taking over the game with 40-yard shots downfield, but he can layer the ball well enough in the first 30 yards of the line of scrimmage where that's just what you need. And so with that, if you're going to then just focus on the elements of where the majority of throws are going to be, he can make those. Um, I think I like him when he is able to step up in the pocket. His presence, once again, kind of to that IQ and that processing is really solid. And then when you see him out of structure, I think he plays really well in regard to that. He can play and extend a play, once again, not as a scrambler, but in a bootleg or in a rollout with his eyes downfield, looking to continue to make a throw. The mechanics are nice and tight. They're really quick. It's a lot of the things where you see him maximizing the abilities that he has. But I think that there is a ceiling to him, and that's going to be something that, for me, I'm not overly excited about from a first-round quarterback.
Emmanuel McNeil Warren is the guy who he seems to have jumped up. If we talk about Simpson and, of course, Tyson falling,
Yeah.
this is a guy who was started off season. Maybe he's a nice fourth, maybe third day three pick.
Yep.
Then midway through the college season, we're talking second, third round, and now I've seen him mocked as high as 19 or 20
Yeah.
to either Minnesota or Carolina or even Dallas. Talk me out of it here, because right now I'm even going, hey, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety number 3. Some people still don't like him as I guess, just the freak safety a la Nick Emmanuel. Some people do. What do you see? And is he a first round safety?
So for me, no, he's not. I only have one first round safety, and that's Caleb Downs, who's my number 1 overall player. But with that, I think that Dylan Thieneman especially has the ability to be a first round pick because he possesses something that is very coveted when you take a look at what it allows an NFL defense to do. And I think Thieneman can play as a true single high free safety. I don't think McNeil Warren can. And so for me, when I'm looking at him, he's going to be playing in a cover 2 look, or I hope he's playing in a cover 2 look. The lure to him is the ball production, like 33% forced incompletion percentage this year. He had 2 picks and 5 pass breakups. And he's a really, really phenomenal open field tackler. Like at what is he? 200 pounds, 6'3", which he's got a ton of length to him, which helps out with that. He's a little bit more slender of frame, especially for a safety, but he comes up and he executes really sound wrap-up tackle technique. Now, it's not consistent. It's actually kind of frustrating where, like, you see these really great open field tackles, but then he's kind of missing the layups. And he's got, like, a higher missed tackle percentage that drives me nuts. And I love to see that kind of even out from him. And so, like, the ball production, I think that's something that translates. I think that his ability to read and react really well as a free safety translates, but I don't think he's got the athleticism to be a single high guy. I don't think you're going to see him as this dominant downhill run defender. And then beyond that, when you take a look at him, he's playing, group of 5 football. He's playing at the mercy of the quarterback play, the opposing wide receivers, and there is definitely a step down in competition where he's dominating it. And there's no doubt there. Like, when you look at that in guys that you want to have stepping up from FCS or group of 5, like Chris Johnson, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, hell, like Caleb Proctor, like those guys, they're in high conversations because they are dominating the level of competition that they're in. And he's doing it, but it still kind of leaves you to say, like, well, what does that look like at the next level at the Power 4 level? Is it still domination, or is it like, oh, you're a good safety, like a day 2 safety though? And that's kind of where I'm at with him is I really do see him a little bit more as that day 2 safety. I think a lot of the production I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the production is a fault of the level of play. And there are still some of those concerns that I have that drive him away from that first round.
Does Quinny Mitchell be doing as well as he did and coming from Toledo help him, do you think? Where teams will look and go, well, Mitchell did very well. McNeil Warren can do just as well because, hey, Toledo produces pretty damn good football players.
I don't think the conversation's the same. I think if anything, Quinyon Mitchell helps Chris Johnson's case more than McNeil Warren's case because of when you look at a cornerback, you have a very clear cut, well defined assignment. You are responsible for the guy across the line from you. Like you need to dominate that guy. And if you're able to do that, then it's very apparent. Where as a safety, as a linebacker, kind of are in this like mercy of whatever the offense has schemed towards you, and it's not as predictable. Now, with that being said, it doesn't hurt. Like Toledo having that, um, you know, I don't want to say necessarily like lineage
And you
of
know, let's call it a mini
DBs,
pipeline. It's not a big pipeline like Texas, but it's a mini one.
but like it's a little guy, yeah. And you know they've got some other guys that are coming up this year. I can't remember the names, and I feel bad. But a couple other guys that are like have draftable grades that are defensive backs. Um, and I think that it does help, but it's not a 1-to-1 conversation.
Well, let's get to the main course, the one that you really want to talk about. The NFL draft and the Packers. And unfortunately, they don't have a first round pick, so day one for them is going to be just, unless they pull off a trade,
Yeah,
they're going to be sitting there going, well, Micah Parsons is worth it. What's their plan? Because they let go of their left tackle. They let go of Romeo Dobbs. They're not going to just spend a lot on free agency. Drafting is their key. So, what are you hoping they do? And what is the general thought out of Green Bay for? All right, what we're going to do in the second and third round?
so in my opinion, and this I shouldn't just say my opinion. It seems like the consensus is the trenches are where you need to go for the draft. I take a look at the starting off. They have a starting offensive line: Jordan Morgan, Aaron Banks, Sean Ryan, um, God, who is Anthony Belton, and then Zach Tom. So like that is boom, their five starting, like very clear cut, well defined rotation. Now, is that something that I'm excited about? No, not really. I think that there are a couple of guys that could stand to get challenged, or even, maybe push down the depth chart by a better talent. And I think that that opportunity exists even at, 52. One of the players that I've been the most excited for in this year's draft class has been Connor Liu because while I'm not happy at all, he had his ACL injury. I think it's going to affect his draft stock where the Packers or a team could get him in the third round, and where he's, in my opinion, a top 50 talent in this year's draft class. And I don't think he's a Tyler Linderbaum type center, but I think he is clearly center one in this year's class. And if you can get him on a discount and get a young guy that understands the game extremely well, that can come in and be a cornerstone, not a cornerstone, a keystone for your offensive line. I really like that. So I think there's a lot of ways that Packer fans want this to go. They're their biggest enemy in terms of like what they think should be the case. But beyond the trenches, cornerback as well. St. Juste came in as a free agent signing. I don't think that really moves the needle. At best, he's a CB2, but not one that you're super excited about. And that would be one for me where I take a look at the cornerback class. I think you have this group of guys that exists in that early to mid second round. Brandon Cisse, Avian Terrell, Chris Johnson, Colton Hood, Keith Abney, and personal favorite of mine, Julian Neal might fall a little bit further down a consensus board. But I think that if you're going to get a guy from there, they could really push to be, an impactful player in that cornerback room. But then the other side of it is it's the same effect at edge where you take a look at a lot of consensus talk: Zion Young, Gabe Akis, Malachi Lawrence, Derek Moore are all those edge players that kind of exist right in that same bucket. And now that Micah Parsons is coming back from injury, you don't know what you have in Van Ness, and he's even going to be more like a defensive end in the 3-4 system. And you haven't really done a ton to move the needle. I think that that's me personally, probably where I'd want to end up spending my first pick at pick 52 is on one of those edges, praying that they fall. Hell, if you can get three of them to fall, move back and just earn a little bit of extra capital in day three, I'd love that even more.
Give me a surprise pick that you think they might do that people aren't counting, whether it's Hey, Dominique Orange, we'll move you in. We need a nose tackle. Big Citrus in Green Bay just screams Green Bay. Or, hey, we need another running back. Let's get Ernest Johnson from Wisconsin. Like, give me that one guy. You're like, maybe, just maybe, the Packers might do something a little wild and geeky for the Packers.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. There's a lot of guys that it would be like the most Packers thing in the world to do, where it's still needed. Like if Danny Dennis Sutton or Dalen Everett is a Packer by the end of the draft, it's going to be the most unsurprising thing to me possible. It's just like everything about it makes sense. Um, but I think that one of the things, maybe not a player specifically, but a position, I would not be shocked if they went with tight end with one of their first two picks. To me, it's not something that needs a top 100 pick, but you've got Tucker Kraft coming back from an ACL tear. You've got Luke Musgrave, who has not worked out and been the player that you wanted him to be. And you've got nothing after that. And in a room and in a class that I think has some really good day two tight ends, I could see them making a move on a tight end on day two that would kind of be a surprise to a lot of people.
Could Sam Roush be a Packer?
Ah, man, it was, yes,
I know you
Sam
want me
Roush.
like a blocking tight end who can
No, but that's the
carry
thing.
his head off. I like it.
That's what they want. That's what they need. Is like a Sam Roush absolutely could be a Packer. My personal favorite, I would love to see Justin Jolie as a Packer with that third round pick. I've got him as a top 50 grade. I think he's a phenomenal player. I know he's lower on consensus boards, but Roush is the one. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with kind of like where a lot of those conversations have gone because you don't want a big slot. I've heard Eli Stowers, but I really don't see that being the case. You want someone that can do a little bit of both, but you really need someone that you can slap on the line to play in line and then free up Tucker Kraft to be the dynamic player that he is.
All right, so before we let you go, the Packers are going to take a quarterback. They always draft somebody.
Yes, they do.
So, better odds. They take Cole Payton, or they take the most polarizing quarterback in the draft, Diego Pavia.
Oh, God.
There's a part of me that's like, Diego Pavia might break LaFleur. For that, we would want him on this team.
I think if they took Diego Pavia, they try to convert him to like a fullback or something like that. I don't see the Pavia mostly because the Packers operate in their like thresholds and their measurables. And while day three they loosen it up, they would have to buy a pair of pants that's 5 times too big for them to kind of fit how far outside of that typical threshold they would see their quarterback. He's so small, he's so different. But with that said, the Packers never cease to surprise me. So if their surprise is me guessing a guy that would never fit their thresholds, so be it. But I think I think of Cole Payton. Do you think Cole Payton's gonna last until late day three or are
I mean, I'm not part of the Anthony Russo crowd. It's like, oh yeah, Cole Payton, quarterback number 3, number 2 off the board. So I do think he'll go at least 4th, 5th, 6th round.
okay.
But again, it's like in the Packer way, I could see them taking like Taylon Green or
Taylor Green, yes. He's the guy. They
Luke
just had
Altmaier, one of those guys. It's like, okay, big drop back quarterback, we're gonna throw, maybe you can run a bit, but we're fine. Now, one of the guys, it's like we're gonna rebuild you, or oh my god, you're smaller than my high school student.
They just had, so was it Baron Morton?
Yes.
Baron Moton. They just had him for a top 30 visit. So I don't think he's draftable, and I mean no disrespect to him whatsoever, but I could see that like kind of like they grabbed El Gurzma last year as UDFA. I could see it kind of within that route. Because right now they got Desmond Ridder and McCord as their backups, which I don't hate that as far as like quarterback competition, a guy that's, started for a year and a half and still a younger player that had some success at Ohio State. Obviously, that team was stacked, but with McCord, I think that maybe there's something in there that you can get a future reliable backup out of. So I don't know if it's like, man, you really got to press the gas, but while both of them have something to offer, I don't think either one of them's like, oh no, we're set. Like we don't have to worry about that. Like with Malik Willis, you never went in and be like, oh yeah, we need a backup quarterback. We only have Malik Willis. It's like, no, we have Malik Willis. We're good to go here. So I could see it. It's definitely not outside the realm of possibility, especially given the last 3 years with them drafting. God, what is it? 2 quarterbacks and then a handful of UDFAs. So yeah.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, because if he has to run, he's going to be busy breaking scoops, dissecting tape, making mock drafts, and getting ready for it. Once again, I give you from the Draft Professors podcast, Go Pack Go, and a bunch of other places which we're going to be promoting right now. I give you it is Newt Westen. So, Newt, before we let you go, where can fans check you out at? Where is your own podcast? Where is the X, the Instagram, or probably Rumble channel? Where your Substack? Where can fans check out your work?
Mostly at the app formerly known as Twitter at NFL Draft _Weston. You can find me on there. That's where my information for my website, zerotechdraft.com, where realistically I'm posting my mock draft and my big board, the podcast I do with Cheesehead TV and Draft Professor, all on there. So that would be the biggest place.
Newt Westen, ladies and gentlemen, once again, always on a pleasure having you on the show. We come back. We've got a lot more going on here, only on it's Last Call. Last Call of the Alcohol, only on the Last Call Podcast.com.